She had a little boy at home. She had a mother inside that very building, the same hallways, the same cafeteria, the same parking lot. A mother who loved her more than anything in this world. She had a nursing license she had worked years to earn. She had patients who remembered her name long after they left the hospital. She had plans for Mother's Day. On the morning of May 13, 2023, 29-year-old Patrice Wilson finished her overnight shift at DMC Detroit Receiving Hospital, picked up her bag, and walked across the parking lot toward her car. She did not know a man was already waiting for her between the rows of parked vehicles. She did not know he was in disguise. She did not know that he had been sitting in that lot, in the early morning dark, watching for her. She did not know that in less than 90 seconds, she would be gone. This is the story of Patrice Wilson, a healer, a mother, a daughter, an only child, a 29-year-old woman who did everything right, and a system that did not protect her the way it should have. Stay with me, because her name deserves to be spoken carefully, and her story deserves to be told completely. Before we go any further, if you are new here, please subscribe to Crime Dispatch right now. Hit the notification bell. This channel is dedicated to telling stories like Patrice's with the seriousness, the depth, and the compassion they deserve. Every subscriber helps us keep these names in front of the people who need to hear them. Subscribe, and let's continue. Before a single piece of evidence is discussed, before the timeline, before the courtroom, I want you to know who Patrice Wilson was, not who she was in a headline, who she was to the people who loved her. Patrice grew up in Detroit, the only child of a woman named Roslyn Livingston. That relationship, mother and only child and mother, was one of those bonds built out of total trust. Patrice called her mother first. About everything, good news, bad news, the ordinary small things that fill a day. The phone rang, and it rang to Mom. From the time she was a teenager, Patrice had a very specific idea of what she wanted to do with her life. Not vague or dreamy, specific. She wanted to be the calm voice in a loud emergency room, the steady hand at the bedside of someone who was terrified. She studied. She worked. She earned her registered nursing license and took a position at one of the busiest trauma hospitals in Michigan. Here is the detail that gives this story a particular weight. Her mother, Roslyn, also worked at that hospital. They saw each other on shift changes. They grabbed coffee in the cafeteria. They walked the same hallways, used the same parking lot, swiped into the same building. For both of them, that hospital was not just a workplace. It was a second home, the safest place in the world. Patrice was also a single mother. Her young son Tyrese was at the center of everything she did. Every double shift, every early morning, every paycheck. Colleagues describe her in almost identical words, no matter who you ask. Soft-spoken, steady, generous to a fault. The kind of nurse who would stay 45 minutes past the end of her shift because a patient in another room was crying and no one else had a moment to spare. The kind of daughter who texted her mother every single morning, without fail, to say she had made it home safely. That habit, that simple, loving daily habit, it is going to matter before this story is over. By the spring of 2023, Patrice Wilson was trying to end a relationship. The man on the other side of that relationship was 36-year-old Jamere Michael Miller. From the outside, this looked like what most relationships look like. Two adults in a busy city, navigating work and daily life. But the people closest to Patrice say the warning signs appeared early. Possessiveness dressed up as love. Jealousy dressed up as concern. The slow, grinding pressure of a man who could not tolerate the idea that his partner had a life, a will, and a future that did not belong entirely to him. By early 2023, Patrice had made her decision. She was done. She wanted to focus on her son. She wanted to focus on her career. She wanted peace. Miller did not want peace. Those two sentences are small. They are not simple. Inside those two sentences live thousands of women across this country every single year. Women who tried to leave. Women whose former partners decided that if they could not have them, no one else would either. Patrice was careful. She moved into a quieter apartment complex in Novi, a suburb away from the city. She kept her routines close. She stayed near her family. She raised her son. By every measure, she did what advocates would call the right things. But there is a brutal truth at the center of cases like this one. When the person threatening you already knows your car, your schedule, your mother's workplace, and the exact hour you walk out of a hospital after a 12-hour overnight shift, there is no such thing as completely out of reach. Roslyn would later tell reporters that Miller had been sending flowers, leaving things at Patrice's door that Patrice left outside, untouched, to make clear she was not accepting anything from him. The more she pulled away, the more persistent he became. Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy would later say something that is true in this case, and true in case after case after case. The most dangerous moment in an abusive relationship is not the beginning. It is the leaving. If this story is reaching you, if you believe that Patrice Wilson's name deserves to be remembered, please hit the like button right now. It is the simplest thing you can do, and it helps this channel reach more people who need to hear stories like hers. Thank you. Let us continue. The morning of May 13, 2023 was a Saturday. Mother's Day weekend. Patrice had plans. A little boy waiting at home. A mother she was going to celebrate. She had worked through the night, and now the shift was over, and she was heading toward both of them. Patrice Wilson walks out of DMC Detroit Receiving Hospital and steps into the parking lot. Surveillance cameras mounted high above the lot record everything. She is in her work clothes, bag on her shoulder. She moves the way a person moves at the end of a long overnight shift, tired, focused, ready to be home. Her mind is already halfway there. She is thinking about her son. She is thinking about her mother. She is thinking about sleep. A few rows away, another figure moves across the same footage. Blonde wig, hat pulled low, glasses he does not need, a firearm in his hand. It is Jamere Miller. He has been waiting. He knows what car she drives. He knows which shift she worked. He knows what time it ends. He came prepared, not just with a weapon, but with a disguise designed to buy him a few seconds of confusion, a few seconds she would spend trying to make sense of what she was seeing. Patrice reaches her black 2020 Lincoln Nautilus. She unlocks it. She opens the driver's side door. In those small, ordinary seconds, the kind every working person repeats 1,000 times a year without a second thought, Miller closes the distance between them. He forces his way into the vehicle. He moves to the back passenger area. And at close range, inside her own car, in the parking lot of the hospital where she had spent years saving lives, he opens fire. Patrice Wilson is killed almost instantly. There is no struggle long enough to matter. No chance to call for help. No moment to fight back. The woman who had spent her career running toward emergencies, pressing on chests, holding the hands of strangers in their worst moments, never gets the chance to be saved by anyone. Inside that hospital, less than a few hundred feet away, doctors and nurses are working. Her own mother is somewhere in that building, and not one of them knows what has just happened in their parking lot. Miller does not run. He does something colder than running. He climbs into the driver's seat. He starts the car. He adjusts the mirror. And he calmly drives out of the hospital parking lot, with Patrice's body still inside. The alarm goes up the way it always does in cases like this. Quietly, confused, held together by the desperate hope that there is some innocent explanation. Patrice does not come home. She does not text her mother to say she made it safely. Roslyn knows immediately. This is a daughter who texts every single morning, who calls when she is running 10 minutes late, who does not simply disappear after a shift. Roslyn begins making phone calls. To Patrice's number. To her friends. To anyone who might have seen her. The phone rings out. The texts go unanswered. Her son is at home, asking where his mother is. By the afternoon, the family contacts police. Detectives pull the hospital's surveillance footage, and what they see stops them cold. They are not looking at a missing person. They are looking at a homicide. They can see exactly what happened. They just do not yet know where she is. Roslyn does what any mother in that position would do. She goes to cameras. She goes to reporters. She stands in front of every microphone that will hold still long enough, and she says the thing that breaks the heart of anyone who hears it. I need the streets to talk. Later that same day, Mother's Day weekend, the weekend Patrice had been so excited about. Police trace her vehicle to her apartment complex in Novi, the quiet suburb, the place she had moved to feel safe. Her SUV is parked there. Officers approach. They open the trunk. Patrice is inside, shot multiple times, left in the back of her own car, in the parking lot of the home she had built for herself and her son. The man who killed her had used her vehicle as a hearse, and her own home as a dumping ground. Roslyn receives the call that no parent ever recovers from. Her only daughter, the mother of her grandson, gone. What Roslyn went through on that Mother's Day weekend is something no parent should ever have to face. If this story is moving you, if you feel the weight of what this family carried, share this video with one person. One share keeps Patrice's name alive. It takes 10 seconds. Please do it now. By the morning of May 14, 2023, the case took a turn that almost no one had expected. Jamere Miller turned himself in. He walked into a police station in Metro Detroit and surrendered voluntarily. No standoff, no manhunt, no flight across state lines. No version of what followed could have been in doubt. The disguise alone had established premeditation. A man does not put on a wig and position himself in a hospital parking lot at 7:40 in the morning by accident. There was a body. There was a vehicle. There was surveillance footage. There was a documented history of a relationship the victim had been trying to leave. Miller was charged with first-degree murder, along with weapons offenses. By October 2023, his defense team had done the math. There was no version of a trial that ended differently. Miller pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. The sentencing hearing was November 7, 2023. For the first time since that Mother's Day weekend, Patrice's family was in the same room as the man who had taken her. They were going to look him in the face, and they were going to speak. Roslyn spoke about a daughter who called every morning, about a grandson who would now grow up without his mother, about walking past that parking lot every single shift after that day, and what it does to a person to keep going back to the place where everything changed. Patrice's grandmother, steady, unshaken, looked directly at Miller across that courtroom and spoke words that traveled from local news to national broadcasts to every corner of social media. Her voice broke and held at the same time. She asked him the question that his guilty plea could not answer. You talk about you loved her. How could you love a person and take her life? How? Is that love? Is that really love? She said it should have been her instead. She said she wished she could have been the one to face whatever he brought that morning, so her granddaughter could have walked away. The judge handed down the sentence, 35 to 60 years in a Michigan state prison. Miller gave up everything to keep Patrice from walking away. In the end, he is the one who never gets to leave. In the months that followed, Patrice's family did something many grieving families never find the strength to do. They turned the worst day of their lives into a question, and they demanded an answer in court. They asked how a man in a blonde wig could wait between rows of vehicles in a major trauma hospital's employee parking lot long enough to plan an execution without a single security intervention. They asked about lighting, about camera coverage, about patrols, and then they filed a civil lawsuit against the hospital and the parties responsible for parking lot security, seeking $200 million. The family's attorney noted that surveillance footage showed Miller lurking on hospital grounds well before Patrice's shift ended, and that security had not intervened. He also raised a question that deserved to be heard plainly. Would the response have been faster if the victim had been someone else? DMC released a statement saying its security team had acted swiftly and cooperated with law enforcement. The litigation was ongoing at the time of this recording. Whatever the outcome of that legal process, the conversation Patrice's family forced into the open is one that American hospitals have been avoiding for years. The people who care for everyone else are very often the least protected people in the building. Before we close with a prayer for Patrice and her family, I want to ask one thing of you. If you believe that nurses, caregivers, and working mothers deserve to be protected, subscribe to Crime Dispatch right now and drop a comment below with Patrice's name. Just her name, so the algorithm knows this story still matters. Thank you. Patrice did the things victims are told to do. She ended it. She moved. She kept her distance. She stayed close to her family. She held her job. She raised her son. And it still was not enough, because the man who decided she was not allowed to leave had access to the one thing no precaution alone can fully stop: information. He knew her car, her schedule, her hospital, the exact hour her shift ended. If any part of this story sounds familiar to your own life, the controlling partner, the jealousy that does not ease, the person who will not accept the word no, please hear this clearly. You are not overreacting. The danger you are sensing is real, and there are people trained to help you plan a way out safely. National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-7233. Call or text 24 hours a day. You do not need to give your name. You do not need to be ready to leave today. You just need to start the conversation. Patrice Wilson was a healer, a mother, a daughter, an only child, a young woman walking to her car on a Saturday morning, looking forward to celebrating the women who loved her most in this world. She deserved every single one of the years that were taken from her. This is Crime Dispatch. We will keep telling these stories for as long as it takes, carefully, seriously, and with the respect every name on this channel has earned.